For my first few months of sobriety, I spent a lot of time alone. I spent time, we can either call it in isolation or in solitude. One of the steps I took to get sober was cutting off all friends who badly influenced me. Any friends who used drugs, I completely cut them off. Turns out now that was pretty much all of my friends. So that resulted in me spending a lot of time in solitude. I'm not even going to call it isolation, because it gave me time to figure out who I was. Figure out who I was without the drugs, without the alcohol, loading up my system and fogging my brain. I drank from when I was probably 15, a lot. I didn't realise at the time it was a serious problem. When I was 16, I was on parks smoking weed, and it was a normal thing almost every single night to get a bottle of champagne and smoke a joint or a blunt, because I thought that's what was cool. Basically, that's the life that was sold to me through rap music and the music that I listened to. I don't want to go too far off topic, but yeah, so I spent a lot of time in solitude when I first got sober, and I could never do this before. I could never sit with myself. I always needed noise. Even when I was a little child, I needed people around me. I never liked to be on my own. It turns out that in that solitude, I began to figure out who I was. I wasn't this loud guy. I wasn't this extremely confident man without the drugs or alcohol. In fact, I almost got thrown back to my childlike self, where I was extremely nervous and shy. I'm not a loud person. I'm quite an introvert. I will make a video on introverts in the coming videos. If you don't already know, I'm on the journey of making 365 videos in 365 days. But the reason why I'm speaking about solitude or isolation, whatever you want to call it, is because sobriety, well, for starters, addiction is the opposite of connection. So if we're addicted, it's very hard to be connected to anything apart from the substances. But sobriety isn't meant to be about isolation. I believe solitude is very important to get peace, to get clarity, to figure out who we are, to ask the important questions that we need to ask ourselves in this life. But you shouldn't completely cut off your social life altogether. As I've said, addiction is the opposite to connection. So to not be addicted, we need to have connection. We need to have people around us. You don't need a massive group of friends, but it's so important to spend time at least around one friend or one loved one and actually communicate, rather than just messaging back and forth on social media. And the reason why I've made that point is I'm off out for a meal right now. I'm off to go and have a steak. This is my first cheat meal since holiday, and I missed a meal today so that I could kind of overeat, if you want to call it that, this evening. So yeah, guys, maybe in the first few months, spend time in solitude, spend time on your own. I learned so much about myself by just being alone. But don't spend the rest of your sober life completely isolated, because it can get very lonely. We can get stuck in our own heads. I've got a lot better at it, but in the past I was very stuck in my own head with all the guilt and shame that I built up over the years of addiction, all the mistakes that I made in my life. Guys, I hope that really helped you. I appreciate all the new subscribers, and like I said, if you don't already know, I am on the journey of making 365 videos in 365 days, and if you don't know, I coach people in destroying negative habits. Like I've kind of mentioned in this video, I was a drug addict. I was using drugs every single day. I thought it was normal to smoke weed before I even brushed my teeth in the morning. And now my life is completely different. I'm completely free from any vice, apart from caffeine and maybe the odd nicotine pouch. But apart from that, my life is completely opposite to what it ever was. And I'm teaching men to do that as well. I'm coaching men to be the best version of themselves, to build them daily disciplines, to be proud when you finally look in the mirror. But yeah, I hope that helped, guys. Cheers.